Shannon and I were talking earlier. I think you might be tired of talking about it. I don't know if you are, but the Will Smith slap, right?
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I guess our question was kind of, hearing someone make jokes about epilepsy. And I'm not saying that's what Chris Rock was doing at all. It's just kind of this idea of
yeah.
comedy and,
Mm.
a disability, disorder, or disease, if you will. When you hear
Hmm.
someone make jokes about epilepsy, and you're yourself a comedian who makes jokes about epilepsy, the only
Yeah.
difference being you have epilepsy, how does that make you feel?
It's
Um,
strange. Sometimes you do see people making just a really sort of ignorant um, sort of comment on it, and people just think that. I think what the root one people think is that it's flashing lights and then tonic clonic. That's like what people think epilepsy is. I think if they're an outsider, usually it's just quite ignorant, and you just think it's a very sort of insensitive thing to do, and not just because I have it. I just think in general, for example, um, when I talk about epilepsy on stage, I only talk about my own so that I wouldn't upset anybody in the audience if they had it, because everybody's is different. I'm just talking about my own story. So it's almost, I tell the story of when I had my first seizure and how I dealt with it and going to the hospital and trying to like sort of navigate through that first sort of few days of having it, and about a friend I met. It's all very personal. So I think even if somebody didn't really want to sort of be reminded of it, it's um, such a unique and sort of subjective take on it
mm,
that I don't think people could be offended. So, like um, well, not somehow, but hopefully because of that, I've never had anybody say anything negative. It's only ever been positive. But when I do see people making a comment on it, I always find it strange. Sometimes people will do, even going away from epilepsy, sometimes comedians will sort of, if they've misunderstood something, I'm not sure if they do this in America. A lot of comedians do it here when they're doing crowd work. If they've misunderstood something somebody said, they'll stock line people say, "Have I just had a stroke?" And they say that, and it gets a bit of a
oh,
laugh. And I'm always thinking that's such a strange thing to say, because it's such a like, so many
oh,
people here
really?
must know somebody who's got that, and I just think it's such a
Yeah.
weird line. But I'm even the same. When people describe something as not being good as being like a car crash, and I always, and it's not much better, but at distance, I always say train wreck, because I think everybody will probably know somebody who's been in a car crash. They're a lot more common. Somebody might be reminded of something they don't want to be reminded of. But a train wreck is such a sort of unique thing that I think that's sort of an easier line to use, which is a bit nicer for people to hear. I hope that sort of answers your question. But what I mean is, I think as long as people stick to personal things, then they wouldn't offend people half as much as they do. It's often just ignorance, I find.
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. It's your story to tell. I mean,
Yeah.
if you will. I think that train wreck's a great example. Yeah, I don't know anybody that's been in a train wreck, but it kind of reminds me of like Bill Burr's one of my favorite comedians too. Here, I don't,
Mm,
yeah,
I
or
love
I
Bill
think
Burr.
Dave
Yeah.
Chappelle. I forget. I think this might is this a something a line comedians use. It's always funny until it happens to you.
Right. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
I
I've
mean,
not heard people say that here, but I know that as a very sort of American line. It's a like a
mhm.
it's I don't know how to sort of compare it to another similar line, but I guess it's the sort of a rewording of
you
all
know
fun and games till someone gets hurt, right? But
what?
it's a
Well, and
funny,
it's
more personal take on it.
well, and yeah, and you're making everybody feel comfortable with it, and so that by doing that, then you can be funny. You can be fun, right? I think I heard
I like to
you
think
say
so.
one time like, "Well, if you don't laugh, I'm gonna fall down," or something. That was kind of one of your. I'm gonna.
Oh yeah, yeah. I say that it's the always try to make sure if I'm sort of, and it sounds boring if you're talking about comedy, but sort of inform people about it. Always make sure there is a laugh line come in. So,
Yeah.
for example, for the listener, I'd say that mine isn't brought on by flashing lights. Mine is brought on by tiredness and fatigue, and audiences not laughing at my jokes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's a way to sort of just to keep it
See?
light, but it's sort of, but I do tread along the lines of this is what it actually is. So there's always something. At least they are learning. I think.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love
well,
that.
thank you. It makes it sound like my show's just one big lecture, but you know.
No. It's I love that though, because you're right. They're learning, and that's what's important. So tell us. Let's back up a little bit. I think I'm a big. What kind of epilepsy do you have? You had your first seizures in university, is what I think I heard. Which I love. I wish we said that here. So tell us about that and give us kind of the breakdown. And I love to hear medicine. What medicine do you take? If you're still taking medicine, and
Right.
triggers,
So that's the
side effects, all that good stuff.
yeah, lovely. Well, that's the interesting thing about it, because so I never spoke about it before when I first started comedy. I didn't even really consider talking about it until a couple of years in. I mentioned it to somebody, and they said, "Oh, I had no idea. That's interesting." So because mine was at university, and then I was on medication, and then took the medication, and then we lowered the amount, and then I like weaned myself off it. So now I'm off medication. I'm able to drive. It just felt like I didn't have a right to talk about it. So because I'm writing this show, it's about. So actually, funnily enough, the show starts in America, in New York, where I was over there to watch. Was on holiday in New York, and I went to a baseball game, and I met a guy there who, during the pandemic, found me on Twitter. So we started connecting and chatting, and then it made me realize that there was a girl that I had met when I had a seizure from Germany who was in London, and I tried to reach her as well. And so it's a sort of me and this guy becoming friends, and then me trying to find her. And this is the reason I tried to find her, because of how important she was to me. So because I started talking about that, everybody was like, suddenly, people like yourselves and the Epilepsy Society, they were like, and parents of children and audiences, or even people with epilepsy, kept coming up to me and being like, "I love that you're talking about this." And I was like, "Oh wow, I sort of felt like I didn't have a right to." But I guess it's my to go to back to the car crash / train wreck analogy. I guess if somebody had been in a train wreck once, not to describe my life as a train wreck, but if they had been in a train wreck, they've always been in a train wreck. So they've always experienced that. That's something they've always been through. It sort of makes and sort of shapes them as a person. So I've sort of gone back into it, and it's amazing to think that, oh, I did go through this thing. It is something worthy to talk about. And I didn't realize how few people knew about it, and how little those few people even knew about it. So it's quite nice to find that maybe I've sort of accidentally sort of become a slight voice for it.
Which is, I mean, and we'll get there even later too, but one of my favorite questions to ask is, what would you tell somebody who is currently going through that train wreck? You know, I mean, you've been there, right? So that's another question for later. We'll ask it. We'll go back.
Oh yeah, sorry. I'll answer the question. What I'll often do is, when someone asks me a question, I start answering just something else. So I will go back and answer your question about the first seizure. Don't worry. So we can take it right from the start, which is that growing up, my eldest sister, she has epilepsy. So I was always around it. But I think when you grow up with something, something just sort of becomes slightly normal to you anyway. I think it was like, my sister has epilepsy. Sometimes she has a seizure. My parents very quickly moved me and my younger sister, well, sort of middle sister, out the room, and then they sort of deal with it, and it happens. And then Claire sometimes can't remember where she is, and it was just sort of something that happened. And then, so I guess I was quite, I don't know if you'd say lucky, because I'm talking about my sister having epilepsy, but it was slightly normalized. So I was at university, and I was out one day, just clothes shopping, just trying to buy some new jeans. And then next thing, I wake up and there's a room full of people looking at me, and I've got no idea what sort of happened. But that's when I met this girl, Hannah, who I was talking about, who was a German girl who happened to be in the shop. And she also had or has epilepsy. So she came with me to the hospital. So I had like this immediate sort of group around me of like support. So we went to hospital. I was told I had epilepsy, and I don't know if it's because of my age, because I was at university and you sort of have your first sort of bit of freedom and you're sort of feel a bit untouchable, or because my sister had it, but I sort of took it on quite surprisingly well for me. I think if it happened now, I probably wouldn't. I'm sort of a bit more switched on. I think when you're younger, maybe you're not as smart. So what was stupid was that I didn't tell my parents. I just knew that they would worry. I thought they might make me come home, and I was really having a good time. So I sort of just didn't tell them for a while. And then when it got to a point where it was like, oh, I can't go on nights out as much, I'm having to sleep, because as I say, mine's from tiredness and fatigue, and stress, which is so funny because I was like, they literally said, yeah, late nights, tiredness, and alcohol. And I was like, but I'm at university. Like, why isn't everybody having it then? Like, surely that's like the cocktail of epilepsy. I was like, why me? And so that confused me a bit. But I don't know if I just didn't want to be a hassle or just the way my parents are. But I just in the end, I told my mum, I think via a text message, I just said that I've had a few seizures, but I'm okay. And I don't think she really questioned it. I guess she maybe thought I was more sensible than I was, but I guess it was less scary for them because my sister had it. And then that was it. And that was when I was on. So sorry to answer your question because I forget.
No, you're good.
So it's, is it called the same? I guess it's called the same thing. Me, epilepsy. Is that all the same wording?
Oh, say it again. What'd you say?
Juvenile.
Oh yeah, that's what we both have, right. Nathan and I.
Oh, okay, great. Oh, that's not great, obviously, but good.
Very juvenile.
We are. Great news. We all are.
We're very juvenile. Nothing to do with seizures.
I think it's the same around the world. They just might use. Anyway, yeah, we both have that, and we both take Depakote. But you're not taking medicine anymore.
No, when I was on Epilem. Do you have this?
What that is? Epilem.
Which I had. I lived in Canada. I went to live in Canada for a year after university. So I got the because I would be away for a long time. They gave me like a whole 6 months worth of prescription to take. So when I was flying out via Chicago, because they were in big boxes, for some stupid reason, I took them out of the boxes, and then in like, you get like the mesh line at the top of the suitcase, sort of, I like lined them all up in this thing. And then when I got to Chicago, my suitcase wasn't there. I was like, that's strange. And then it was just not there. And then I went to ask somebody, they said, oh, I think you have to go through this room. And I opened this door, and it was so big, this room, and there was just a table in the middle, and there was this American Airlines security guy there. And he said, is there anything in this bag I'm not going to want to see? And I was like, no, not at all. And he was like, are you sure? He goes, because I'm going to open it. I was like, there's nothing, it's fine. And he opened it. There was like a whole line of pills just going. And I went, oh, well, there is that. I just completely passed me by of how mad that must look. It was 6 months worth, and that's 2 a day. There's a lot.
There's a lot.
It's like Dallas Buyers Club situation right there.
Yeah.
I'm glad you didn't get pinned, so they let you go. Obviously, hopefully you didn't get.
Yeah, I had my paperwork from the doctor to suggest what it was, and then he did say, he was like, I shouldn't say this, he said, but when you walked in the room, I thought, oh, this is fine.
Oh.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like.
Well, there you go. I appreciate that. Oh, that's good. That's good.
Yeah. I don't think he thought that I was, smuggling anything dodgy in when he saw me walking in, looking so innocent and confused.
I don't know if I'd get the same treatment. I hope I would, but geez.
I don't think you would, Nathan.
Yeah, it's just like the whole situation.
It
Not at
depends what
all.
you're saying. If you're trying to tell somebody at Heathrow in London that you're on your way to Leicester, they would probably think this guy's on something.
Yes.
What's not in the suitcase
Jake,
is
how
in
do you
his
say it
body.
again? Lester. Lester. That's funny.
This is
You're
true.
you're talking. You mentioned your sister, and going back to
Mm.
your life as a professional comedian, and she has epilepsy too. Do you ever run jokes? Her name's Claire, correct?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
Do you
Claire.
ever run jokes by her?
No, because I don't talk about hers
Hmm.
on stage at all. Um,
Oh, not about her
I
epilepsy, but like even your jokes about yourself. Or I'm
oh
just
just
curious if she's like a sounding board, or maybe not, because this is your
no.
train wreck after all. So I guess.
Yeah, I think because I wouldn't run like a regular joke past her,
Oh,
because she's not very funny, so I just wouldn't really gauge her reaction. There's anything to go by.
all
So
right.
yeah,
Question is
w-
asked and answered.
so no, I just no, so I wouldn't run anything by her, uh, off stage or on. I make my own decision. But
That's so good. What about other
Have,
yeah,
people? I'm sorry. Go ahead,
oh
Shannon.
yeah, go for it. No, 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 Nathan. I think you're
Oh,
gonna
I
ask
just my
whatever you
mind
want.
was kind of rolling down this. You're on stage, you're telling jokes, or even people, or I'm assuming you're going to learn more about you, and I hope a lot of people learn more about you through Hazy Not Crazy. But also,
oh
do you
yeah,
do people ever try to give you jokes about epilepsy? And I understand it's your story, but does
yeah,
anybody ever kind of come up to you and share
yeah.
an epilepsy joke because it's theirs? Just
Yeah. What recently somebody I can't think where I was gigging, but it's the hack line of like, what do you do? Is it something along the lines of, and I don't want to give it airtime, but it's like if someone's having a seizure in a bath, throw in your washing or something, and it's
oh,
that thing, and I'm like, I
I've
can't,
heard,
if you've just seen me on stage, I don't know how you think I would ever work that into my
yeah.
set. It just I'm just like, no, like this. I'm telling a story about. I'm just not going to suddenly stop and go, oh, and here's a joke you can tell down the pub. So yeah, or like they'll think they've done some sort of wordplay, and they'll be like, oh, you could say like seizure salad, and I'm like, when would I say that? When would that make any
Yeah.
sense? Unless, unless it was me, I don't know, diving into a bath full of lettuce leaves. I don't know what you think, what the setup would be for that joke.
That's
So
funny you
Yeah.
say that.
some
I've actually had someone use that joke on me in high school about having a seizure cell. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't a very well formed joke, but I've heard that too. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to think that I'm sort of writing my own ones, uh,
Yeah.
rather
And,
than
and seizure
I mean,
salad's a very popular name for our walk teams. Like when you go to the
right.
epilepsy walks, it's
See,
always
that's
a big
lovely, and that's
seizure.
done in a positive way. But
Right.
when they just sort of hand you this and you go, I don't know what you want me to do with it, but
Yeah.
um,
That's so
yeah.
funny.
Also, whenever but the audience give me jokes, and fine, I know everybody's funny. I think everybody's funny. Like people always say to me, like if they ask, like, was I funny at school? And I'm like, well, yeah, but everybody is that sort of how you make friends, isn't it? You joke, and people who
Mhm.
have your same sense of humor is how you become friends. So that's sort of everybody. But obviously, the aim uh, in comedy to be a comedian for people to pay to come and see you is that you can write jokes that the audience can't write. That's
Yeah.
that's the reason they've
That's
paid for it.
true.
Otherwise,
Yeah.
why are you here?
Y-
If these are just a load of jokes from audiences, then I
That's
don't.
very,
I'd feel a bit bad charging people back to come and watch me retell them.
very true. Right. Do you or wait, where was I going with that? No, that's not what I was gonna say. Um, do you ever have people say you like have you ever had people tell you you shouldn't tell those jokes about epilepsy? Have you had the reverse?
No, I'm not sure if that's just by luck, um, in that I haven't had that person in my audience. But I've had so much positivity from
Good.
people, and this is I did a few nights in Edinburgh last year. They had like a condensed fringe festival, so I went and did 3 nights, and there was a lady in the in the show afterwards, she said to me that she has epilepsy, and she said, because I spoke about the fact that I can drive, so a line I say, and I said it, and I think in an interview with Epilepsy Society, the joke is that I never say I'm epileptic as I have epilepsy. Something I have, it's not something I am. And when people say, what's the difference? I say, well, I have a Ford Focus. I'm not a Ford Focus. Like, it's, just because I have it doesn't mean I am it.
I'm stealing that one.
She came up to me afterwards and she said, do you know that you're not allowed to drive if you have epilepsy? And I said, yeah. I'm like, it's not like I've just risked it and not told the insurance company. I was like, no, it's because I'm fine and it's controlled and I'm okay. Like, bless her, because she was only being nice, but I think she was just checking that I wasn't just breaking the law every day.
Yeah.
So, and it was so nice because she had epilepsy and she said that she loved hearing me talk about it. And one of the first times I did it after the pandemic, which is when I decided to, because it was when the story sort of starts, is in the story of getting back in touch with people online. People would come up to me and message me after and say that a child's just been diagnosed, and it was so nice to hear it taken lightly. And then I was filming something just last week, and somebody there said that they had seen me at a gig with their daughter who's got epilepsy, and how much she loved it that I was sort of talking about it. So I talk about it towards the end, and of my like regular club set now. I'm sort of, you want to make sure when you go to Edinburgh that your jokes are sort of also can work in clubs, and you're sort of onto something. So I told her there, and he said that she loved it, and it made her night that I'd done that. And I was like, wow, that's enough for me, I think. That even if somebody complains, I'm like, well, as long as it's balanced, at least. If for every one person that complained, there was one person who sort of really appreciates it.
Well, and that's life.
I'm more than breaking even, so I'm okay, I think.
Perfect. That's life.
I don't know how I would handle it if somebody did, but I like to think that it's so personal and such just my story that maybe it means that they can't. So I'm not sort of ever joking about people with epilepsy. Just like in my whole set, I'm never joking about certain people or ever a specific person. So hopefully I managed to avoid it because I'm terrible with confrontation. So mainly for that.
Well, let's talk about that. I love that. I think it's amazing. And I think this is I think we need more humor in the world, but in the epilepsy world in general. We need it. We need to laugh. We need to take ourselves a little less serious.
Yeah, absolutely. And you obviously, just speaking with you now, totally come from such a sincere place. And I love that you recognize you're telling your story. And some of the film work I've done in the past about my experience too, I've totally zoned in on the fact you realize there's so many different types of epilepsy.
Oh yeah, that's it. Yeah.
And there's no way you can speak for others. So I think you're doing absolutely everything right. And it's so cool to see you thrive and bring this part of your life onto the stage, man. So
that's so nice.
Yeah, you got forever fans over here. And I guess I kind of wanted to do a little segue. We'll get some follow-up questions. But, Jake, we got something very special planned for you today on the 4th installment of Hazy Not Crazy. I think we emailed this about, but we're going to play a little game. It's called Hazy or Lazy, okay?
Right, yeah.
Okay, Shannon and I are going to hear some examples of things we do when we're recovering from seizures and some things we do when we're lazy. And you have to guess if we're hazy from a seizure or we're just lazy, okay?
We're just lazy.
Okay, here we go.
Okay, very good. Here, I'll go first. I forgot my girlfriend's birthday. Hazy or lazy?
I mean, it's 100% lazy.
Ding, 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 ding. He got that right. Okay, follow up. Hazy or lazy? I forgot my mom's birthday.
I see the pattern here. I think this is still lazy.
Yeah, that was hazy. Come on, come on. Okay, Shannon.
Oh, this is, I wore the same underwear for 3 days. Hazy or lazy?
Wow, I'm trying to think of the situation where epilepsy could be to blame for that. So I'm going to go lazy.
Oh, I'm gonna go lazy.
You've never woken up in an ER for 3 days? You know, it happens. It happens.
But I didn't wear the same underwear for 3 days when I was in the ER.
Right.
Did you at least turn them inside out one day?
Yes, absolutely.
I've
been in college. I've been in university.
That's
we all know what it's like. We don't want to admit it, but we have all done it. Every single one last
I'd like to think that 2 is my maximum. And
okay.
Was not to blame.
Slept through my alarm and was 2 hours late to work.
I think that could be hazy.
It is both, actually. That was like a little cheater. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah, right. So what happened? You were sleeping off.
So that, you know what I'm going to say? One's hazy, and then one is I'm just being lazy. And then there's even the third option that Nathan and I were talking about, where you call and you say, oh, I might have had a seizure. And so you're using your epilepsy as an excuse or, for something, but it didn't really happen. So then there's that. So there's actually 3 options. It's kind of embarrassing, but I mean, everybody does it, right? Everybody does it. And to say that you don't is a liar. You're a liar. I think calling it what it is. All right.
All right. 2 more from Nathan. I'm speaking third person now. Had a hard time lifting 15-pound weights, which you don't have pounds over there. First of all, you're on the euro. You have grams.
Yeah,
right?
I know a baby is about 7 to 8. So this is like 2 babies.
2 babies, yeah.
Yeah, so unless it was 2 babies and you couldn't be bothered to carry them because they were crying, I'm going to say that was hazy.
My man, it is. It is hazy. You go through the train wreck, your body's not feeling good. All right, you're on a roll here. All right, Shannon's going to round us out.
There's no way that's lazy.
Yeah. I threw my shoe at the wall to turn off a light.
Oh, that is lazy.
That's 100%
did you hit
lazy. It? 100%. Yeah.
Oh, that was fun.
Did it work?
What?
Did it work? Did you turn the light off?
Oh, no, it never works. I've done it more than once, and it never works. I need to get one of those
2
clappers.
shoes every time.
Clap on, clap on.
The clapper. Okay, we have a follow-up sketch here too. It's actually funny. We were talking about seizure salads earlier. So just imagine a bowl, if you will. And what are 3 to 5 ingredients that if you combine those in this bowl of a seizure salad would give you, Jake, a seizure, like trigger?
Well, I mean, of course, I'm tempted to say tiredness, fatigue, and the audience is not laughing at my jokes, but not to reuse material. It would be stress, fatigue, and carelessness.
Oh, interesting. Carelessness.
That's a big one.
Whoa, let's talk about that. Carelessness from other people that you...
Oh, no, me. Always me.
Oh, carelessness from you is a trigger.
Yeah, just in general, I think if I knew that I shouldn't be going on a night out and I go on a night out, or I forget or forgot to take the medication, and then you go, well, now if I go back and take it, I will definitely be late for the lecture. And as much as I'd like to use it as an excuse, my lecturer will probably think I was lazy, not hazy. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'll get to the lecture. And then I remember having a seizure in a lecture. And I was like, well, that definitely should have just gone home and taken the thing, and definitely shouldn't have gone out last night. There was a whole cocktail there of fatigue, tiredness, and carelessness in that particular one. But usually stress and fatigue, I find.
One thing I've learned over the years is, for me, it's never one thing. It's yeah. For me, it's always like you said, and for me, stress is a big one. Carelessness, I can see that. Yeah, it's always 2 to 3 things. Stress, lack of sleep, Maybe I was at the pub talking about the British monarchy with Shannon a little too late and sharing our, with all this Harry and Meghan Markle stuff.
It's too stressful. It's too stressful.
We've all been there.
A bottle of kettle, another bottle of kettle, and the Warriors not winning the national champ. I mean, it's too much. It's too much. That's right there. It's going to push me over the edge.
The Oprah interview was on and you just needed to discuss it until the early hours.
There we go.
So let's get into a little TMZ stuff. You got I think I referenced, maybe we talk a little bit about girlfriends. I think you said you have a fiance or girlfriend.
Hannah, I just heard the word. I heard Hannah.
I don't.
Oh no! So Hannah was a girl that that I met at university, who I then lost touch with, and then tried to find her during the pandemic, but she never had Facebook. She was a very sort of the archetype of what you'd see in like an indie film, It wasn't on social media, didn't have a TV. She's that sort of thing.
So very elusive character.
Yeah, it was a bit harder to track her down, and that's why we were Facebook friends afterwards, because she was on a like an exchange. She was over at my university doing like a semester there. And then we just sort of lost touch. And again, I think it's being young and stupid and not quite realizing how important people are at the time. And then, no, I had a fiance. And then when people say had, that can mean you then went on to get married, or it can mean that you broke up. But mine's the latter. We are. So whatever article you read there is a bit out of date.
Oh, okay. No, that's good.
Thanks for bringing it up.
Yeah, no, I bring it a lot because when I worked in an advocacy organization,
Nathan had a wife. I mean, it's okay. He's
I did too.
Yeah. Right,
actually from France.
Oh,
which I know they have a checkered history with England, but that's okay.
Oh yeah, no, I like France. I was there recently. I went to Paris. So she was French.
Yeah.
Or still is, I assume.
From Paris, yeah. I mean, beautiful. I've been over there several times. Unfortunately,
but it's not the UK. I mean, let's just face
it. Yeah. Shannon,
I'm happy to go with that.
Shannon, we're due for a trip. We gotta go support Jake at the Fringe Festival. I think.
I want to go. No, it's in Edinburgh, right? The one in August?
Or no, I think it's in Leicester. Yeah. I think it's in Leicester.
I was in Leicester in February, but this time
I want to go.
Edinburgh, is that what you call it?
Yeah. He called it Edinburgh. I didn't even fix it because it was too good. I just had to leave it.
Wait a minute, I messed up two names.
Yes, you did.
Oh yeah. It's just
it was beautiful. It was perfect. It was too perfect.
I'm just going to chalk this up to Kentucky.
You will be in Edinburgh in August, right? Is that what?
Yeah, I'll be there for the whole month. So I think I'll get the dates in my diary, although you've probably got it written down because you'll be more switched on than I am. I'm there from the 3rd until the 28th.
So, Edinburgh Fringe Festival 2022 at Pleasance Baby Grand?
That's the one, yeah. Every night. So that cocktail of what brings on seizures is probably not ideal.
Yeah, are you going to prepare for that? No, that's a good time. Yeah, you're every night, the 3rd through the 28th?
Late nights. Yeah, every night. And then Edinburgh, is usually, because comedians are so sort of passing ships in the night. Either we're at clubs with 3 other comedians, but then maybe the headliner will arrive after the openers left, and you might be. Sometimes you do whole weekends together, but often you're sort of traveling around. So August is this 1 month where we're all together. So it's usually a bit of a. Do you have freshers over there? Which, like when you first start university. So when you first go to college,
freshmen. We call them freshmen, not freshers.
Oh, but it's a freshers week we have, which is mad in that it's basically the university saying come a week early.
I think.
There's no. It's sort of the opposite of orientation, because all you do is go around the town really drunk and lose and forget where you are. So it's sort of the opposite.
That sounds
of
like fun.
But it's crazy because it will be something they'll openly say, Freshers Week, come for Freshers Week, and then you go for Freshers Week, and then like it's just like every bar is like £1 a drink, and it's basically just come have a week where you get really drunk and you make your friends who you'll be around for the next 3 years. So it's basically just carnage. But then Edinburgh, we sort of get that every year now. So it's all of us going to see each other. So the shows, there are shows on early, but usually the shows start at maybe sort of the stand-up shows, because there's also like plays and other stuff on. So about 6 to 7 o'clock, the comedy solo shows. But some people will be on midday, and 2 and 3, there'll be like stand-up shows. But it all starts about midday. So there's nothing in the morning. And then we all go out and do our show, and you either go home and have dinner or whatever, or you go straight to a bar. And then you've got performers bars where only people who are performing go. And then we're out until 5 in the morning. And then you go home and you sleep until 2 or 3. You get up, you do your show, and it's just that. So that I have to be very careful, because it's so similar to that I'm always thinking, is it going to come back? I've got to be careful. I've been going up for a few years, and it never has happened. But there's certainly been times when I would get like, I guess if you have juvenile, do you get the jerks? The myoclonic when it's...
Yes, I do. I don't know if Nathan does, but I do.
And it was always such a thing where I would know in the morning, like I can feel it. And it's so good to describe to people that it's just the same thing everybody has when they go to bed at night, right? When your leg suddenly kicks out. And it's that. It's like your body just decided to do something. And there's been 1 or 2 times where that's starting to happen in Edinburgh. And I'm like, I'm going to have tonight in, and I'm going to take it very easy. And maybe that's my body warning me. Maybe it was just something else, but maybe it's my body warning me. Yeah. Because it's so similar that you think it would make so much sense if it came back.
Sure. Do you feel like sometimes I feel like the more jerks I have, is that what you're saying? The more I'm like, okay, I gotta lay down.
Yeah.
Unplug.
If I now have one, I only have myself to blame.
I don't know how I couldn't. I gotta tell you. So my husband and I, our friends that are in the UK, we go over there and do the whole rugby circuit. And so I had my 40th birthday in Edinburgh. We were at a rugby match. I don't know what we were. I don't know. But I officially decided I couldn't do it anymore because it's too cold. I'm not that hardcore.
Oh, yeah.
I'm a little bit of a pussy, for lack of a better word. I couldn't do it. I was like sitting in the car. Oh my gosh. And I'm from California, from LA. But it was really fun, and I love it, and I loved it. I loved it. But I had my 40th birthday was in Edinburgh. It was a great, like, one of my best birthdays ever.
It's amazing. It's a really, really cool city. But I think you're right about the coldness, because as I said, I lived in Canada, and when I'd be in like Calgary and it'd be like -28, if you do wrap up, you are okay. It's cold, but you sort of just know to stay indoors, but you can sort of wrap up and hide from it. But in the UK, sometimes it gets, especially in Scotland, because it's damp as well. It's a damp, wet. So the coldness just sort of gets within you, to your bones. And you just like, you can't even, it's a different coldness. So you're right, I can understand, especially being from California.
It's so bad. It's so bad. And there's nowhere, we were at Twickenham, and there's nowhere even to get warm, like if you go to a stadium here, you can go, you can find an indoor somewhere. There's somewhere you can warm up, a store or something. It's just like it was built, in the 1800s, there's nowhere to go.
By rugby fans who thought that putting on a jacket was a sign of weakness.
It's amazing. It really is amazing. It's amazing. I do love it. I do love that part of it, though. I could handle the game, but the tailgate for me was worse than the game, actually. I don't know why.
Yeah, that makes sense. At least you've got something to focus on, and you can sit there and you sort of have everybody around you so close together.
And that will help. Drinking their beer and spilling their beer on you. So it's keeping you a little warm, too. So that was...
Yeah.
I think I read too, because I was fascinated by this, and you're only like the 3rd or 4th person about the Alice in Wonderland syndrome bit.
Yeah.
And
oh, you have done your research.
do you
Yeah.
know what that is, Nathan?
It's where you'll hallucinate. Things become kind of not quite what they are. Yeah, that I think the author of Alice in Wonderland, which I'm blanking.
Yeah, Lewis Carroll.
There, yeah.
Is that right? I said it with such confidence that I hope it's right.
No, I just.
It is.
Well, I've said Leicester with so much confidence, so I don't know how much that's gonna.
Lewis Carroll. Yeah. So I was talking to somebody from the Epilepsy Society, who's amazing. This lady who helps me there because I've written a script for a sitcom about somebody with epilepsy, which is very close to maybe getting picked up. But I can't say too much. But hopefully that happens. There's a few people interested. That'd be amazing to do. But she's always saying, always send me the script, and I can check over facts for you, and I can make sure that she'll obviously, as much as I do, wants it to sort of be true to it and make sure we're doing the right and saying the right thing. And that's how I checked with her, because I said, well, my thing is, I think my aura was Alice in Wonderland syndrome, where I would sort of be laying in bed and suddenly, like, my bedroom door would either look like it was like 100 feet away, or it would seem like it was here, and the perception's gone. And I was like, realized that was usually when I was going through something, and then I would have a seizure or the feeling that I was going to have a seizure, and that would come and go. So I said to her, I think this might have been my aura, but I don't know. And she said that Lewis Carroll had that, and they think that he had epilepsy. Yeah, I mean, I think it's the only thing we've got in common. He's like a mathematical genius. But
at least there's one thing. That's not a bad thing.
Isn't that fascinating though? Do you have those? Did that ever happen to you, Nathan? Or
yeah, when I have auras, I mean, it's a lot of stuff is distorted, but not as sort of graphically.
Right.
No, I don't have that. I'll have that, but very few and fleeting. Like if there's an aura that'll come on, it's so surreal mixed in with a little bit of deja vu. I've been there before feeling. Yeah. So it's just short answer, yes. But not as much with colors as some people have reported, but another kind of just illusions, if you will. Yeah, it's crazy to think about. So make sure you get your rest, Mr. Lambert, in Edinburgh. All right.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I didn't realize I was having the Alice in Wonderland until just a few years ago, and it was like my hand was a giant hand. That was the one that was so strange. Just my hands. It was the weirdest thing.
Yeah. And you weren't just at the rugby with a foam finger.
No, but that's about what it. You know what they remind me of? The hands from the what's his name? The big guy on A Princess Bride. Remember how big his hands were?
Oh yeah.
What was his name? Anyway, that's what I see. I feel like when I see the hands, they're just in there like moving in and out. Anyway.
Wow, that's so. And just your hands.
Just the hands. Just the hands. And I didn't I mean, Jake, I've had epilepsy for 46 years. And this is a new thing for me that I just kind of realized, more and more working, with all the advocacy work and everything that, I guess that's a thing. But people don't normally feel like that. Not crazy.
Yeah. That's it. That's exactly what I wanted to check with her, because I was like, I might put this in here, and then she'll be like, "That's not a thing." Because there was something. There are some things I'd written where I was like, "Well, sometimes I do this," and she was like, "That might just be you as a person. Let's not try and blame the epilepsy."
There you go, hazy or lazy,
hazy or lazy, yeah. She's like, "That's actually just you as a person."
Sometimes I forget to feed the dog or cat.
We'll send that bit to her. Well, Jake, thank you so much for coming on. I think we've hit the 50-minute mark.
Much. And this is so lovely. I'll do this every week. It's so
it's been such a delight. And would you be down to come back maybe in a couple weeks or before Edinburgh?
It'd be good. Yeah, I'd love to. Yeah, of course.
Okay, awesome. I'm going to research
how to keep calling it Edinburgh.
Yeah.
Yeah. You work on your pronunciations, and then I'll think about coming back.
Okay, deal, absolutely. And best to your family.
You
need to give him a list of words, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah.
I will. In fact, or I save the list of words, and then we do that as the next episode.
There you go.
Yeah, see?
I love it. We'll turn this in. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll do that's all we really got right now. And so I'm going to go ahead and
it's always fun to laugh for an hour straight.
And if anybody happens to listen to this in Edinburgh, remember to catch Jake August 3rd through August 28th every night on the Freshers course.